Boundaries are the foundation of self-care. Like that is step one. You cannot take care of yourself if you do not know how to set and maintain boundaries. It's not possible. And before you can get to any type of healing, you have to learn how to establish them, which is very difficult because we in many cases, I believe, explicitly teach girls to not have boundaries.
Every garden has weeds. In episode 7 of Tend to It, we're naming what drains us, the thoughts, relationships, habits, and systems that quietly choke our growth if left unattended. Joined by Jessica Cunningham-Makoto, we explore how to identify weeds early, set boundaries with care, and clear space for healing without shame or self-blame. Clearing space isn't about punishment. It's about protecting what's trying to grow. Let's dig in. Welcome back, loves. Before we step into today's conversation, take a moment to arrive wherever you're listening from. Maybe you're walking, driving, or easing into your day. Pause with me for just a moment. Let's take a breath together. Inhale and exhale. I'm Aisha Walida, licensed therapist and storyteller, and this is Tend to It, a safe space where we remember that mental health, like a garden, needs tending. This season, Rooted and Rising, we've been learning that growth isn't just about planting and nurturing. It's also about clearing what doesn't belong. Every garden faces weeds. Some show up quietly, some spread fast, some look harmless at first, until they start choking the life out of what you're trying to grow. And our inner lives are no different. We carry distractions, harmful relationships, draining thought patterns, and oppressive systems that slowly pull at our energy if we don't name them. This episode is about discernment, learning how to identify what drains us before it takes over. In gardening, weeds are signals. They tell us where attention is needed. And to help us tend to this conversation, I'm joined by someone whose work centers boundaries, healing, and reclaiming space. Jessica Akoto is a partner at Greenhouse E3, where she leads the organization's executive coaching program and the programming for Greenhouse E3 fellowship cohorts and clients. She also runs her own coaching and consulting practice, Capacious Leadership, primarily supporting women of color in leadership. Most recently, Jessica served as Chief Executive Officer at KIPP Philadelphia Public Schools from 2018 to 2023. During her tenure, the organization grew from 5 schools serving 2,300 students to 7 schools serving 3,000 students, with annual revenues of $60 million. During her 14 years with KIPP DC, Jessica went on to serve as both a high school principal and Chief Academic Officer before joining the KIPP Foundation as an executive in residence, providing coaching and on-site support to KIPP regional leaders. Jessica is a fellow of the 4th class of the Pahara Fellowship and a 2015 Milken Educator Award winner. She serves as board chair of EdFuel and is a board member of Elevate 215. Jessica, welcome to Tend to It.
Well, thank you for having me, Aisha. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. All right, so you ready to get started with the questions? We can dive right in if you're ready.
I'm excited. Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm excited as well. So when you hear the phrase naming what drains us, what comes up for you?
Agency was the first word that came up for me because I think that naming what drains people is the first step or one of the first steps in standing in or claiming your agency, particularly for women. And because I think when you name something, now you can kind of do something with it, right? It's inherently empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it's liberating, right? When you finally get that thing up off your chest around like I don't like that, like that actually puts it takes a load off of you. And I think, at least for me, in my experience and in the experience of many of the folks that I've worked with, it puts a little pep in your step, right? Because now you've given the thing a name, you know what to call it by, it has a descriptor. And so that typically gives you some clues as to what you can now do with the thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It kind of takes some of the power out of it. You
Yeah.
know, I talk to my clients, I'm like, once you can identify it, then, if I can name it, then I can identify what I need
Mm-hmm.
based on what I'm naming. And if I can identify what I need, I have a better chance of getting my needs met.
Exactly.
And
Because
yeah.
now I mean, just to be clear, like now you got something you can at least Google,
Mm,
right? Like if you
hmm.
truly don't know what to do,
Yeah.
you at least have something to Google as a first step. And there's power in that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And we love power.
Don't
It's important that we're able to identify areas and spaces where we have that, because a lot of times, especially if we don't know what's going on, we do feel powerless in situations. So naming it can absolutely give that power. We also talk about, from the gardening aspect about weeds.
Mhm.
So how do we uh, define a weed in this context?
Yeah, I think of weeds as distractions.
Mm,
I think of weeds as the stuff that gets in the way and like blocks the beauty. It's very similar to when you're looking at like a beautiful garden or someone's lawn. They might have such lovely shrubs and flowers and all of that, and the weeds can start to diminish the beauty of those flowers, of the shrubs, and they get in the way. And so
mm,
weeds to me are distractions, and they distract from the beauty.
mm, mhm. Okay. I like that. And when you think about distracting from the beauty, like how might that look in real time?
Like when I'm noticing a weed in life,
Uh-huh. Or you noticing a weed in somebody else's life, you be like, oh, there's something going on over there. What might you
Mhm.
notice? How might you?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know and they're not able to identify. So I'm curious to know, like, what are some of the things that you may notice, not just with the people you work with, but also
Mhm.
maybe with yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I, so when you asked that question, I immediately thought of my experience. I'm a career educator, so I think of the classroom, and I have many classroom analogies. But I'm sure everybody who's been to school remembers when the teacher taught them about the main idea, right?
Mhm,
Remember that?
mhm,
You had to
mhm,
read the passage,
mhm.
and your teacher's like, "What's the main idea?" Right? So they still do that. They got new terms, but you still obviously want children to understand the gist
Yeah.
of what they're reading. And I think weeds are the things that come up that take a person away from their main idea. And so the way that
Mhm,
shows up in my work as an executive coach, for instance, is the one of the first things you do when you start working with someone, I think this is probably true in a therapeutic setting as well, is you establish goals with them, right? What are you looking to get out of this, right?
yes.
And so, I'm taking copious notes. I'm listening. They're telling me what they want, where they want to go. But then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions down the line, it's all this other stuff, right? They keep mentioning this other stuff. And that's when that pattern recognition for me signals that I might need to disrupt something for them and say, hey, you told me your main idea was, X, Y, and Z. But this is now the fourth time that you've mentioned
Mm,
G, right? So might G be a weed? And in practical terms, I think that shows up as um, often the type of stress inducing and anxiety inducing people, places, activities that are not directly connected to your goal or your assignment. And when I say assignment, I mean like your assignment in life, right?
okay.
But ultimately, as a coach, I'm hoping that I'm getting you closer to living in your assignment.
Mhm,
And there's going to be some stress with that, right? That's everything, and you ain't getting something for nothing, right? You're going to have to work.
yeah.
But when you're mentioning things that are not connected to your assignment or your main idea or your goal, and they're like a persistent nuisance,
Mm,
that to me signals this is a weed.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. The first thing that came to mind was that smoke alarm, that persistent nuisance. That
Yeah, because
beat.
it's a pattern, right? Because things happen in like things are gonna come up, right? We all have stuff that just comes up. It's unpredictable. It's annoying, but it's when it's persistent,
Yeah.
you know, and it ain't got nothing to do with where you trying to go, right?
Right.
It's not what we would call like associated stress, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're studying for the LSAT or the bar exam and you're complaining about the amount of reading and studying that you do, okay, that's not a week,
Mhm.
right? You're actually supposed to be a little stressed about that.
Mhm.
Really a
Mhm.
lot of stressed about it.
Mhm.
It's the stress in the anxiety or anxiety inducing stuff in people and places and situations that aren't connected with that, where it's just in the way. Like why? And listen, I'm gonna keep, because I mostly work with women. I feel like you probably do too. I was already getting ready to just say, get him out the way. Because now, girl, 7 to 10 times to be a man. But get him out the way.
Listen, or something like I
Well,
think.
family, honestly, it's oftentimes it's family, it's a man, or romantic entanglement,
Yes.
if you will, and
Yes.
something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that to say that some way, shape, or form, family, especially culturally thinking about, the way of whether it's a parent, caregiving situation, a sibling, the codependencies that can happen with certain siblings if you're the oldest and different things like that. Children,
Mhm.
just all these different things that and dynamics that can come up. Absolutely, absolutely. And when you bring up family or when I bring up friends, because we're talking about family and how, again, culturally, these things come up as far as caregiving and taking care of and all of these things.
Mhm.
Like we talked about in the last episode about family and those tangled roots. There are significant things that happen in our families and we have to keep moving forward and moving forward. And if we're not addressing those things, then they can absolutely turn into other things. So I can see the weeds. And if you all haven't written your letters, because that was the 10 to it practice for last week, to write a letter, whether sent or unsent, to things that, people or things that you might want to let go or need to release. So yeah, just get that done. But anyway, thinking about like some of those, that was a good way, I think, to help the listeners to be able to identify when they might have weeds that they may not be checking for. It's just a
Mhm.
thing. And some of us have normalized weeds.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the number of, I think Black women in particular, it's probably women of color, but I'm mostly in proximity to Black women who are so accustomed to dissociating.
Mm.
And so in that dissociation, I mean, I'm not a practitioner in terms of like therapeutic care, a mental health practitioner, but from what I understand, that can lower your discernment,
Mm.
right? When you're not in your body, because then when you ain't in your body, you're not noticing certain things,
Yeah.
right? And it's also I think because of the way that we are socialized and oftentimes explicitly taught, particularly again as women, to accept certain things,
Mhm.
it makes seeing weeds, let alone removing them, very, very difficult. Oftentimes this is a new practice for women and people in adulthood
Yeah.
because they weren't taught that or even given the authority to make those choices in their formative years.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And the thing is that when we are going, we're in autopilot in that way. I often hear people kind of use dissociating and compartmentalization,
Mm.
um, and they're not the same.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I feel like if I'm putting something in a compartment, I'm putting it there to come back to it in some way. Things just don't overlap. But if I am completely disconnected to it
Yeah.
and I'm not getting back to it or whatever the case may be, or disconnected from it, then there is no, like you said, it puts me in a position where it does impact my discernment and my awareness,
Hmm.
not just what's going on around me, but what's going on within me.
Yeah.
And I get it because, it's often used as a coping, or more like a survival. strategy. I think compartmentalization is more like coping, and even though dissociating is coping, it's more of, it's not as a positive necessarily, I don't use that term, but it's more of a negative coping strategy than, compartmentalization than it's not. So I do think that sometimes those are used interchangeably and they shouldn't. But that's a good point as far as discernment. And when you think about discernment, it's like, okay, so how do I know, whether something is absolutely draining me or simply challenging? And, how can you help someone to kind of differentiate between those two things?
Yeah. I think it's important for folks to pay attention to what happens in their body. Right. And I'll give you an example even from today. I was meeting with a colleague earlier today, and she's known me for a long time, which was helpful. And I could actually, I've had angst about this thing that I was supposed to be working on with her. And she could tell, right? She knows me so well that she says to me in the meeting, she says, Jessica, what's really going on here? And I was finally like, we were supposed to be planning a workshop for some other people. And I was just like, I don't think it's going to be a good use of time. And I don't want to do it. I don't like wasting people's time. Right. And so, and when I'm in a situation where I'm having to plan something in bad faith, meaning I'm supposed to plan and execute something, but in my gut and based on my experience, I know this ain't the thing. I'm having a physiological reaction that I can feel. And she helped me. I knew it, but I didn't necessarily want to name it. And she helped me surface it. But the point is, like, I knew in my body that I don't want to do this thing. I think it's the wrong move, right? And I think oftentimes we kind of override or overlook those signals. And so something that I tell folks to pay attention to, and I had to learn to pay attention to this myself, is a few things. So one is pay attention to who are you always excited to meet with and excited to see versus who. There are some people where, and this is typically in a professional context, but it can be friends too, child, and family, where you look at your phone, right? And you look at your calendar for the day. There are some people that when just seeing their name on your calendar, you automatically get an attitude. Automatically get an attitude, right? You just like, I want to cancel the whole day. Just so I don't have to see this person. Right?
Just get to tomorrow.
Even in a social setting, we all have, for some of us, it's our underarm sweat. Some people get sweaty palms. Some people get, their heart rate speeds up. Yeah. You get cotton mouth, right? Like there are things happen in your body. And if you pay attention, you'll notice, oh, this always happens when I'm around this cousin. Right? Like every time I'm around this cousin, it's like I can't talk. I get nervous or, I'm agitated or whatever. And I think we're often taught to minimize that and minimize those signals. But I like to flip that for myself and others and say, well, pay attention to that. Like, what does that mean? Because first of all, I don't actually even want anybody around me that is feeling that, right? Like if I got something in me that is producing a lot of anxiety for you, baby, I'm not your person. You should. I'm not safe for you. You should stay away from me. So I think first thing is like really paying attention to what's going on in your body when you're interacting with certain people, when you're in certain places, et cetera, is I think one of the clues. Okay. And I feel like there was a second part to your question. I'm trying to make sure I answer.
I think that it was just kind of discerning or differentiating between whether something is draining or it's just simply challenging right now. And you say the first thing was checking in with your body.
Exactly. And I think, and this is where I think it gets tricky because there are things that are just challenging, right? We talked about, I referenced the bar exam earlier. If you have to, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you have to pitch your business or your service to someone, that is going to produce some anxiety. And you might have the same physiological symptoms when that happens, right? It's hard for me to describe, but I think typically when it's right, there's also some excitement in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I told you earlier today, I was a little nervous about taping, right? And so I'm experiencing that physiologically, but it's coupled with the excitement.
Yeah.
And I think when there's a complete absence of excitement, but there's like maybe a presence
Mm-hmm.
of dread, as
Mm-hmm.
well as that physiological stuff, I think that is a clue that this might not be for you. Whatever it is, it might not be for you.
Yeah. Okay, that's good stuff. You know, because we want to give people tangible things to look for and feel. It's like, okay, this don't feel good. I'm big on. I'm like, that doesn't feel right to my nervous system. I don't like the way it feels. You know, when I'm talking, like when you say certain people, things like, absolutely, you absolutely feel that, and it's people that I'm sure are good people and they have great friends, but they're not my people, and I used to feel bad about that because I didn't want to reject folks. I didn't want them to feel rejected, but I don't even know how to communicate to them that you aren't my people. So it's kind of like you just kind of fade the black, you know, but it's a real thing that you experience. And I think once you learn and realize that it's okay, it's easier to
Everything ain't for
communicate that.
everybody.
Yes, and it's easier to communicate that, and it's easier for you to just kind of separate yourself from it and give other people permission to do the same, you know? So,
Exactly. And I
absolutely.
think also you have to appreciate context, right? And so, for
Mhm,
instance, like there's nervousness because you just started a new job, right? And
mhm,
you don't know what to expect, right? And so you
mhm,
nervous, like, do I have on the right outfit? I got this meeting
mhm.
this morning. Da, 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 da. And then you look up 18 months later, baby, if you're still nervous walking up in that building, something, something ain't right,
Yeah, that's a good point.
you
That's a good
know? And so you have to
no.
appreciate the full context.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about boundaries. So, what role do boundaries play in clearing space for healing?
So I'm going to borrow from, I'm going to paraphrase and borrow from a psychiatrist that I really have grown to admire. Her
Mhm,
name is Pooja Lakshman,
mhm,
and she wrote the book Real Self-Care. And I've used the book a lot in my work, particularly my work with Black women, because Pooja Lakshman is an Indian woman, Indian American woman. Um, and in her work, she centers the experiences of mothers of color
mhm,
because systems were not built for women, period, right? In terms of how American society works. And they certainly weren't built for women of color. And then you add children to that, and it's like, and
Good
so for
luck.
that reason alone, I love her work, right?
Mhm,
But one of the things she says about boundaries, and I'm paraphrasing, and
mhm,
I recommend that all of you, if you're, your listeners, viewers, I highly recommend her book. She says that boundaries are the foundation of self-care. Like that is step one. You cannot take care of yourself if you do not know how to set and maintain boundaries. It's not
mhm,
possible. And
mhm.
I wholeheartedly agree with her. And
Yeah.
so, to answer your question, I believe that boundaries are the foundation of self care. And before you can get to any type of healing, you have to learn how to establish them, which is very difficult because in many cases, I believe, explicitly teach girls to not have boundaries,
Mm,
right? Like
yeah.
when you think about how girls are socialized in certain communities and in the church,
Mhm,
in homes, right? Like there are still in 2026 little girls that got in trouble over the holidays because they didn't hug Uncle so and so.
mhm, mhm,
You know what I'm saying? Right. That happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And
mhm,
that is a parent or caregiver explicitly teaching that little girl or that child that you can't set boundaries, that the adult's comfort is more important than yours. And
mhm.
so, because we don't want you pissing Uncle so and so off, you got to hug his creepy behind,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And so I think that's why it's so hard to for people to learn how to do it, is because they've oftentimes been explicitly taught the opposite, going
Mhm,
back to their childhood.
Yeah. And that goes back to the last episode when Miss Dolores was talking about protecting the system and not the person. So
Mm.
I'm protecting this familial system,
Uh-huh.
and how things are set up or whatever, but not necessarily the person, the child.
Right.
Even with small children, when you think about sharing, I get it. They have this toy. It's like, I don't want to share this toy with, my friend, or they come over and, the other kid comes over and say, this person won't let me, share. Well, that's theirs. Is there another toy that you
Mhm.
would like to play with, opposed to share your toy? You have to do it. It's kind of like this idea of having to do something. Yes, we can talk about skills around what it means to share and all of these things. And also, that's fine. If you want to play with your toy, did you offer them something else to play with? And when you're done, is it okay? If
Exactly.
that gives options opposed to just, it does not matter what you feel. It does not matter what you want. This is what you have to do.
And
And
it's
I think, yeah, we could do a better job of kind of giving more options, I guess.
yeah, no, I agree. And what you just shared is like, if a parent or caregiver was to say that to a child, it also teaches the child that it's okay to have things of your own. It is okay. It's good. Have some of your own. Because the number of grown adults walking the earth right now who don't fundamentally believe that it is okay to have things for themselves is pretty offensive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just making me think about like that boundaries is the foundation, and you
Mhm.
cannot heal without boundaries. And I mean, I'm just saying that over again in my head and just thinking about how that is something that we aren't really taught consistently. It is in certain ways, but not as, just this foundational thing that you need. And, it just never, I didn't learn. I'm still trying to figure out boundaries without guilt. I'm still
Mm,
trying to figure out boundaries because of
yeah.
loyalty, which brings me, to the next question, around, that piece around like how does guilt, fear, or loyalty keep people stuck in draining situations,
Mhm.
and how do you support, like what would you give them to, help them to get out of that?
Yeah. So two things come to mind. The first, I'm gonna go back to Pooja Lakshman and real self care because I love this analogy and it always tends to hit home. She says we should think of guilt as a faulty check engine light in our car or like the tire pressure light. Because so here's what I mean. So take the tire pressure light. Most of us, if you drive, if you're of big age, you've driven a car long enough to have been driving down the highway, whatever, and one of them little lights come on, right?
Yeah.
But the gas light, but the car's running just fine, right? And while that light might annoy you, once you realize the car's running just fine, or for some of us, when we like, I ain't stopping right now, right? You actually learn how to kind of ignore it. Like it's just like a thing that's there, but
Mhm.
it doesn't interfere with your ability to drive to work, drive back, right? You just got to get the tire pressure right. You can do it later, or oh, that light just be acting up. The car is glitching. And she talks about thinking of guilt in the same way. Like it's like a little pest that's kind of gonna be there, but you don't need to let it dictate your moves.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it's gonna be there. Like say hey to it, hey girl, but but that don't mean you gotta pay so much attention to her.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just like
Mhm.
that, like because I don't know about you, I'm good for let that tire light can come on all at once, baby. Long as them tires look all right to me when I step out the car, you already know we still going to our destination. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Just like most of us, I know exactly how much time I have when that gas light come on, right? I'm not stressed. I saw it. I'm gonna get to it. And that's
Mm.
kind of like the guilt. And I also think that with guilt, as a person gets better and better at setting boundaries, that becomes less
For
intrusive.
sure.
I'm
For
not
sure.
saying it just completely goes away, but it
Mhm.
becomes less and less intrusive.
For sure.
Mhm, mhm. And
For
then I
sure.
think that the other thing I was going to say around the guilt is we don't weigh the cost fairly. So when we are thinking about a boundary, just thinking about setting the boundary, and
Mm-hmm.
the guilt comes up. Oftentimes that guilt is rooted in, what will this other person think of me? Or what will they think of me, right? They're going to be mad. They're going to be disappointed. Their feelings are going to be hurt. And so
Mm-hmm.
all of your attention is focused on the cost. First of all, it's your perceived cost to them. You don't know what
Yeah.
they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So you're putting all this weight in the perceived cost to somebody else,
Yeah.
but you're not giving any weight to, what is this costing you?
Mm.
Right. And if you think about it like a scale, or even like a balance sheet or something, or an equation, if you will, if you were to list all the things that is costing you, which up to physical health, because oftentimes this is costing you your physical health, your mental health, is costing you your time. It can be costing you money unnecessarily. It can be costing you other relationships that you value.
Yeah.
You put that in one column, right? And then you got over here, so-and-so, who I don't even like that much, might be offended. Okay, so.
Not for real. No, I mean, that is so real. But coming from like a recovering people pleaser, it's just like mortified. I'm supposed to like everybody, and everybody is supposed to like me. I know that is not a true thing, but that is a real, I think, fight for a lot of people. The other thing is like, okay, let's define guilt. And, essentially I feel bad for something that I have done wrong. What did you do wrong? And being able to identify that, taking care of myself I can't go wrong with that.
You can't go wrong with that. And that person's feelings are their responsibility.
That part.
Yeah. And listen, I'm gonna tell you what somebody said to me, a few years ago. I had to set a boundary that I did not anticipate needing to set. It was a professional boundary. I quit a job that I never envisioned quitting on that timeline. And one of the things that I got really caught up in that decision-making process is like people's disappointment. Right. And I can't remember who said this or where I heard this, but it was basically, you got to let people die mad about it. You have to be willing to let people die mad. Let people die misunderstanding you. Let people die being disappointed in you. Because here's the thing, I'm not going to die being disappointed in my damn self. And so if the price of that is you going to be disappointed in me, okay.
Those are your feelings to manage. Those are your feelings to work through. Absolutely.
Because what I can't do is die disappointed in me. I can't die not liking me. And really, for me, you know how I'm wired. I can't die not respecting me. Right. And so when something starts to poke at my self-respect, I will happily let you die mad about it.
But no, that I never heard it in that way before. Like, some things you gotta let people die being disappointed. But if that's what they choose to do, it's kind of like, but what do you choose for yourself? Like,
it's
what is
it? Ain't nobody gonna live it for me but me.
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna live this life for me but me. And so if the cost of me moving how I need to move to live in my assignment, to stay in my power, to keep my dignity, is you being disappointed, and 9 times out of 10, not 10 times out of 10, but I say 8 to 9 times out of 10, it's somebody that you don't even rock with. No way. Like in the example that I'm thinking about, I'm giving all this mental and emotional energy, and I'm like, Jessica, you don't even like them. You don't want to brunch. My litmus test is, do I want to brunch with you? And the 2 people I was so worried about, it was probably more than that, but like, I never in my life wanted to brunch with them. Right?
I love that litmus test. It's like, that's a simple one, but it means something.
don't want
Yeah.
to hang with you. I don't want to have drinks with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to hang out with you. No, are you kidding me? So
Yeah.
I can't expend any more energy. And it was a process. It was not quick, but I that's part of what kind of got me over that hump of expending so much energy worrying about their perception of me when I'm like, especially because one of them, I'm like, you ain't even like her from jump. You ain't like her ass when you met her. So let's go back to that. Let me go on ahead and give you. I'm gonna give you something else to add to your list of why you don't like me and I don't like you. Okay.
There you go. And I mean, so I think that part is, really clear. Do you think it's different for folks where there is a loyalty, that loyalty thing that kind of comes up and is involved? Not as far as you putting a boundary in place, but the difficulty in, putting a boundary in place or doing what you need to do because of this sense of loyalty.
I think some people think it's loyalty. It's actually self-abandonment. Because that loyalty that you are so caught up in for someone else, it's causing you to be disloyal to yourself because you know in your spirit, in your mind that you don't want to be in this, you don't want to be in this job, you don't want to be in this friend group, you don't want to be in this group chat, you don't want to be in this relationship, right? You don't want to live in this city anymore. But you so busy worried about loyalty to whoever, and it's slowing your process, your or impeding your process or ability to be loyal to yourself.
So is it even loyalty at all? At all? I talk to people all the time, and I have at different times over my career, and I've even felt this where, and maybe you have too. I doubt it. Listen, maybe, but.
Now I really want to know what you're going to say.
No, it's simple. It's the thing about being in a job for years and literally feeling loyal to that place and feeling bad about stepping off, knowing that it is time. I have been in a job and stayed, knowing I needed and stayed 3 more years because that, just loyalty or that guilt around leaving my clients there or leaving in that way. And I mean, I'm sure some fear was, kind of trickled in there, a little bit or whatever the case may be. It's like they need me, that, I'm just feeling this loyalty. But when you say the self-betrayal piece, and when this question came up, it's like, but the first thing I thought about, but is it really loyalty? Or what we kind of name as loyalty. But when we're really kind of drill it down and name it and call things what they really are, then we're able to really get to them, because that's essentially what it was, self-betrayal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think another framing that I found helpful. So, I don't know if you and I have ever discussed this, but I am a huge fan of, do I have a book up here? I'm a huge fan of Tressie McMillan Cottom. Yes, I do. Okay, so Tressie McMillan Cottom, she's a sociologist, she's an academic, also political pundit. I just feel like this book, Thick, is a collection of essays from her. I think it is or should be required reading for any Black woman who tries to even or wants to take herself seriously, right? That's how powerful this book is. Anyway, something that Tressie said, not sure if she says it in the book, read it anyway, but talks about how the institution cannot love you. Right. So oftentimes, and I hear folks say, I'm sure I probably said it in my younger years, but I love blank, insert name of company or whatever. Let me, that thing, like Procter and Gamble cannot love you. Amazon cannot love you. Okay, Google cannot love you. Apple cannot love you. The institution cannot love you. And if you are Black, if you are queer, if you are a woman, if you are a person with any marginalized identity or identities, it's actually set up to truly hate your ass, right? And so it's set up for you to be for you to submit to it. That's how systems are set up, right? And so the notion of us particularly as Black women, spending any time talking about but I love it. It don't love you. The other thing I'll say from a professional perspective, as someone who has been in the CEO seat and in other C-suite roles, that means I know how firing works, right? And I used to be a principal, so I've had to fire school employees. Baby, it takes about 3 minutes to fire somebody, right? And I say that because, and I'm not saying that means they don't care about you at all. I do think, though, people need to understand that if that job is causing you harm, or if that job is not respecting you, if that job is not meeting your needs, and you're expending all this time and energy and labor thinking about how much you owe the job, I need you to understand they can and will fire you. It takes 3 minutes.
Yep.
And these days, it's so good. It's done they lock your stuff up electronically. If I'm the CEO, all I gotta do is send a couple emails, check in with the lawyer, HR, and you're done. You're done, right? And so that doesn't mean don't do your job, but that does mean, like, it's not very hard for them to break up with you.
Your loyalty should always lie.
Exactly. It's not that hard for them to break up with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to keep that in mind as you're doing all this deliberation and loyalty, pontification. They're not that loyal to you.
Because what'd you say? The system? What's the quote again?
The institution cannot love you.
The institution cannot.
Right? They're loyal to their bottom line. Right. And so whether it's a for-profit organization and it's recognized as revenue, or it's nonprofit organization and it's recognized in a different way, that is what the institution is loyal to.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop.
Full stop. It's true. And I think that when you make it that clear, because people, they tarry, they go back and forth and, what about this? And what about this? I promise you that when you're not here, they will immediately post your job, and it moves on.
I used to say that all the time, but if I'd have died in that job, baby, they would have sent my husband or my mama, maybe both, a little an arrangement,
It'd have been nice.
A little floral sitch. And and they would have simultaneously been on the phone with various talent or headhunting agencies or whatever to figure out the timing to launch the search to replace me.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a board of directors or trustees, what they're supposed to do. Yeah. But sometimes you have to remind yourself of that if you drop dead at that desk, if you have a heart attack on that commute, right? They just a few clicks away from going ahead and post that position. They're gonna send that, they're gonna call everybody into the conference room, y'all gonna boo-hoo-hoo for a little bit, and they're gonna move right on.
Yeah. Because that's how the system works. Mm-hmm. This is good. This is good. So what does it look like to set boundaries gently?
Why are you laughing already, though?
I couldn't wait to get to this question.
I know. You over there shaking your shoulders and whatnot.
What does this look like, Jessica Cunningham-Akoto? What does it look like to set boundaries gently but firmly?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think identity matters here. In that, and again, I'm always focused on Black folks, especially Black women.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what it looks like to set boundaries, I would say firmly, and for me, gentle is less of a priority than clear.
Okay.
Right? And caring, right? So I use the phrase candor and care.
Okay.
So I want to operate with candor and care. in setting a boundary, and the candor is certainly like, say the thing, just say it. We be, people be, oh my goodness, they be trying to dress something up, decorate it, put rhinestones on it. Girl, just say the thing, right? Now,
why are you picking with me?
Say the thing, right? I also, and first of all, economy of language makes people take you more seriously in general, because it conveys confidence.
Okay. So explain a little bit economy of language. What does that mean?
Concision. It means saying a thing as succinctly and concisely as possible. When you do that, and if you even pay attention to speakers that people find compelling and credible, 9 times out of 10, those folks are really good about economy of language. And so people don't need, when you're setting a boundary, people do not need a dissertation, right? If you don't want somebody to call you after 9 o'clock anymore, say, hey, please don't call me after 9 o'clock anymore. Thank you. Right? I said it in a way that I think was caring, but and part of the care is that I told you. That's care. I told you straight up, don't call me after 9 o'clock. Now, and I think the how you say it matters, right? And so, like, hey, please don't call me after 9 o'clock anymore, and just let it be, let it ride. Because one thing that I find that folks do, especially women, is they get to explain it. You started with please don't call, and even then, when you didn't even say please don't call me after 9 anymore. It's like, hey, it would be great if maybe you don't call me after 9 o'clock, because, and you whining and shit, like don't call me after 9.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. No, that is very clear, but I think that, again, it goes back to this kind of idea of being nice and not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want them to take it the wrong way, and understanding that I am literally prioritizing. I can consider, someone's feelings or whatever in my approach, but when I begin to prioritize their feelings over mine, then it creates this thing where I feel like I have to over-explain, and I'm taking care of them more than I'm taking care of them. At least trying, because what may be more care is me being succinct, me just being straight clear without saying a whole bunch of things. But again, letting them manage those feelings and those things that come up for them.
You've mentioned the nice thing a couple of times in our conversation, and I hear that a lot. And I was actually telling a mutual friend of ours recently, like, it's no extra credit for being a good girl. Ain't nobody about to give you no bonus points in life because you was, quite frankly, nice to people who didn't even deserve your niceness. They weren't even nice to you, right? There's no extra credit, but we be operating as fully grown people out here. Like somebody gonna give us a gold star, or add on to our grade at the end of the quarter or semester. I'm like, that's not going to happen, and I'm not incentivizing folks to be cruel.
Right. Okay. Of course.
I fail to understand what this. I cram to understand the benefits of being a good girl. And this is when this is a digression. Like, sometimes I thank God often that I was not taught to be nice as a little girl. Like, what was prioritized in my house was being smart, period. Like, above everything else. Right. And so I never really got a lot of those messages about be nice, be sweet, and I wasn't sweet as a child. That wasn't a descriptor that anyone would have used to me. So I think I kind of missed that, and it's helped me out in life, because that's not something I don't walk away from social interactions with people wondering if they thought I was nice.
I think too, looking at what kindness looks like, it's like we think about nice. It's like, well, can I put kindness in? It's important for me to be kind in my, approaching as I'm dealing with people. But this nice, that what's added to that usually comes from some sacrificing of self and some, placating and doormatting and all of those things that kind of prioritize someone else over yourself.
Right. And the universe actually rewards audacity far more than it rewards nice.
That is actually true. Like when you think about it, like that, I never considered that.
Yeah. It's nothing out here for the good girls.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that when people are, what's the word? When they are encouraged to be nice, it's usually a lot of times so another person can get their need met.
There it is.
Mhm.
One of the questions you got to ask yourself is, who is this serving?
Yep. Yep.
Who is me compromising this part of myself? Who is me tucking
Mm.
myself in? Who is me behaving in a way that's fake because I
Mhm.
don't actually think this person deserves all these niceties? Who is this serving? And the answer ain't never you. The answer is
Mm.
always a system or someone, and it's typically the reason this is coming up is because it's someone who is unable or unwilling to even reciprocate that. So you're
Mm.
getting the raw end of the deal because this is not a conversation that even exists in reciprocal and mutually beneficial,
Mm.
reciprocal, mutually respectful relationships, right? This
A
isn't even a
great point.
conversation.
That's a great point. It's not even a conversation
It's not
if
a
it's
conversation.
mutually reciprocal relation. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I guess we can. I have one more question, and then I want to get to the signature questions. But the next question I want to ask is, how do we deal with draining systems or environments we can't easily exit? So
Mhm.
yes, I have to put these boundaries in place. These things are draining me, but I can't quite leave just yet.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do I work through? What are some tools that you can maybe offer, or some advice?
I'm going to speak to young women first,
Okay.
to the young girls out there, okay?
Mhm.
So late teens and in the 20s.
Okay.
I think your number one priority should be getting the credentials, the degrees, and the type of career path that will position you to have as much self sovereignty as possible. What
Mm.
do I mean by self sovereignty? That means I believe that every woman in particular has to have an FU bank account. You have to have a pot of money set aside with only your name on it, even if you are married, even if you are married, right? That is just for you so that you are never in a position where you have to betray yourself, tolerate disrespect, abuse, mistreatment. Because the number one thing that gets in the way of a person stepping off is money.
Mm.
Right? Because often
Resources.
it's actually easier sometimes to work through that emotional stuff. The emotional stuff that we talked about, that's a thing, right? But it often comes down to money.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
because what I've noticed is women with money move different. Everything you navigate every system differently because you navigate it with the knowledge that, oh, I ain't gotta be here, baby.
And
This,
I do think
this is a
it's.
choice for me.
I would add to that beyond looking at it as resources,
Mhm.
because it's people that I know that got a little bit of change, and they still stay in things that make you like, huh. And that is a lack of emotional, mental health resources,
Yeah,
some type of, there are resources that are lacking that can put you in a position where you feel like this is where I have to be, or I don't have a choice.
yes, yes.
But
And-
yeah.
But I do think that money, when the money isn't a problem, it is far easier to end something.
Hmm. I agree with that.
Far easier to end
Hmm.
something, right? And so I would say for young women, prioritize money and sovereignty,
Hmm.
and that will actually help you set boundaries
Okay.
later on in life. For women with a little bit of seasoning on them, like us, uh, and going back to your original question of like, so what's the recommendation when they're in a situation when and they can't move just yet, make a plan.
Mm.
Make a plan. You have to go into stealth mode. Kind of like, and I know this is horrible, and I've never been in this situation, but when I hear victims of domestic abuse talk that who have successfully gotten out, right? That is not an overnight move. Those women typically are planning behind the scenes for months, if not years. And abuse is abuse. And so if that job is abusive towards you and you don't have the funds or it's not feasible for you to move quickly, then go into stealth mode. And because just the presence of a plan or the process of planning gives you agency, because that's you standing in your power. When I don't care, pop out your notes app. It doesn't matter. It ain't got to be fancy, but start planning.
Yes.
It also signals to yourself that you are worthy of this plan and this exit. You just even having the plan.
Absolutely. That's good. That's good. Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the signature question. So if you are not familiar, the first question is, what is one seed of wisdom that you would plant, just for our listeners, based on our conversations today around boundaries, around honoring themselves, any of the things that we've discussed, what seed would you offer, seed of wisdom would you offer to folks today?
Your listeners are gonna think I'm such a geek because I'm thinking of a poem by June Jordan. It's like my favorite poem, and I can't recite it. I was gonna try to pull it up, but she says, "Be no one's fool." And the poem is about how I love who loves me, right? I respect who respects me. Be no one's fool. You ain't gotta do nothing for nobody, other than your kids, okay? But like. Okay, you got to take care of your kids.
Outside of legal obligations.
Take care of your kids. But you ain't gotta do nothing for nobody. You ain't gotta be nowhere. This is your life. And so really stand in your power and live in your assignment. You are the only person who can live your life.
Okay, I love that. Okay, the last question is, what song, saying, any type of mantra that you have or something like that, just kind of motivates you and keeps you going? What inspires you?
Song or saying? My mother inspires me. Yeah, Beverly Brown Cunningham.
Come on, Miss Beverly.
She popped in my mind. Hey, I need to call her back. She called me yesterday. She's who I learned a lot of this. Like, she's the one who taught me to always have my own money, right? She's the one who taught me, you ain't got to be nowhere. We can go. We can leave. And it's through little things. Like I remember, my mother will take things back, and my mother, my father is a good gift giver, and he's always given. He ain't raggedy, so he don't miss no birthdays, Valentine's Day. But baby, if she don't like the gift, you gonna take it back. And so she's my number one.
I love that. I love that she inspires you. And it sounds like that there are nuggets and little sayings that we can leave. That's a whole word. Like, when you take little things like that away. So I am.
She won't say, listen, quick tidbit. That lady checked out of a hotel because they didn't give her the best view of the Christmas tree. Oh. I'll never forget it.
This is unacceptable.
I don't have to be here.
We're out of here. We can leave.
My father said he don't even sit down when they walk into the hotel room no more. He just stand there and wait for her to survey.
Come on, Miss Beverly.
Listen.
Yeah, that excellence, that just.
I paid for a view of the Christmas tree. This does not meet my standard. And so it's that type of thinking that has had just a huge impact on me in the way that I exist in the world.
Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Thank you for your time and these nuggets around boundaries and these weeds that we need to pull up and just be aware of and handle and tend to. I think that you've given me, but also the listeners, just really tangible things that they can carry and take with them. So I appreciate your time and your energy with being with us today. And be well. Be well. Thank you so much.
You be well too. And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Take care.
All right, loves, it's time for Tend to It. This week, I want you to name one weed in your life, a thought, a habit, a relationship, an environment. Just one. And I want you to commit to pulling it this week, even gently. That might mean setting a boundary, changing a routine, or simply telling the truth to yourself. I'm not asking you to clear the whole garden in one day. Just tend to what's right in front of you. I'm really appreciative of Jessica reminding us that naming what drains us is an act of care, not cruelty. In our next episode, we'll continue exploring what it means to choose nourishment for survival and for sustainable growth. Let's close the way we open with a breath. Inhale and exhale. Remember, weeds don't define you. They just show up where tending is needed. So be it, tend to it. This podcast reflects my personal reflections and professional insights as a licensed therapist, but it is not a substitute for therapy. The conversations and practices shared here are for educational and inspirational purposes only. If you are seeking mental health support, I encourage you to connect with a licensed therapist in your area who can provide individualized care. Tend to It is a production of Black Unicorn Productions. This episode was executive produced by Tanisha Williams. Special thanks to you, our community, for showing up and tending to it with us. Until next time, remember, the soil is rich, the seasons will change, and your growth is worth the care that you give. So be it, tend to it.